The UK Creative Industries Mapping document defined the creative industries as those activities which have their origin in individual creativity, skill and talent, and which have the potential for wealth and job creation through the generation and exploitation of intellectual property. The creative industries were formalised in 1998 and have now been recognised to be worth £84.1 billion a year to the economy. In the UK, they're recognised to be an ever-growing and important contribution to culture and the UK workforce. Creative industries are not only important for the economy, but are also beneficial to a wider audience in supporting communities, finding new ways of working and adding value to new products and services, allowing them to compete on a global scale. As a major economic driver, the creative industries are now an important focus for the Department for Culture, Media and Sport in improving creative graduates' chances of entering and maintaining employment in their chosen creative sector. An initial understanding of how creatives operate is useful to identify problematic areas and to smooth the transition from education to working in the professional world. Creative practitioners and artists are merging the distinction between art and creative industries, and graduates entering the creative industries should be amenable to working in a range of fields. Research has been done to find how creatives compartmentalise their working time. There are three main roles which their time will be comprised of. These are the creation of work in their specific field, work in arts-related roles outside their main creative enterprises, and non-arts labour. This tends to result in graduates creating a portfolio career as they gain experience of working within different roles, and long-term employment in one role is less common. More frequently, there are a series of project-based short-term occupations. As those working in the creative industries are required to manage their own career progression, good communication and team working skills are considered essential for networking, approaching potential contacts and making inquiries. Problems in employment can be encountered as there are often more applicants than occupations for certain roles and heavy competition. In comparison with other sectors such as finance, in creative sectors it can be difficult for students to find employment after graduation, and delayed entry into employment has been recognised, with multiple entry attempts in short-term positions often dependent on previous contacts. With current debates broaching the question of what methods can be developed to help graduates find the conversion into the creative sector easier and encourage them to develop their own resources to find sustainable employment, the question is what measures can be put in place to help? In research conducted over the last few years, there have been areas identified of what would better prepare students for entering employment. Should there be strategies in place in tertiary education, and if so, how can education teach skills for sustainable employment? To identify what measures are required, first it is necessary to investigate what skills employers have identified as lacking in graduates. In a report published in 2011, a research team discussed working practices with employers in creative industries to inquire how design graduates can lend their creativity and innovate within a sector and what barriers they may encounter. The study explored a range of design sectors such as textiles, fashion design, advertising and animation, and the skills that graduates can bring to the role. There were three main aspects in which graduates generally lacked experience and skills. These are the understanding of commercial practices, the pragmatics of the design industry, and collaborative work skills. Creativity amongst graduates wasn't lacking, but the practicalities of how to direct this creativity and how to solve problems were highlighted. The focus group also emphasised that although graduates from arts higher education courses are valued for their conceptual thinking and generation of creative ideas, there was an overall preference for portfolios which displayed technical skills, knowledge, work management and professional capabilities. However, the focus group emphasised that business skills shouldn't be prioritised over cultural awareness and conceptual thinking, as neglecting these could have an adverse effect on creativity. The Department for Culture, Media and Sport published a report last summer which highlighted their goal of increasing employment within creative sectors with a view to encourage competition, enterprise and continuing growth. The report also confirmed that some employers had communicated concerns that graduates could be better equipped with pragmatic business skills, and similarly, it was found that graduates need to develop professional skills for the workplace. Some employers in the study considered some university courses to be lacking in up-to-date technological skills, which put them at a disadvantage, and they also exhibited a strong preference for graduates with up-to-date technical skills and practical experience. However, with technology evolving so quickly, it would be impossible for this to be a target for universities. University programme leader Nick Lovegrove argued that although technology is ever changing, this has always been the case and things haven't necessarily changed.
Our graduates now are expected to learn more to know bits about more software than ever before. So both in terms of illustration and graphic design. Our graphic designers have to know bits of film editing, animation, web design, app design, print design, and it's a lot to learn. But if you go back historically and have a look at what graphic designers and illustrators had to do in the olden days, so kind of pre-desktop computing, it was just mind-boggling what they had to know. And in terms of photo typesetting and preparing things to go off to the printer and getting print tests done, now we just export a PDF, email it off, and it's done.
Exactly.
And I think there's probably a bit of a misconception that what the industry is more complicated now than it ever was, and I think you needed more skills probably up until the Apple Mac came along in the kind of 90s, but in many ways we've got it a lot easier.
In terms of what employers look for in graduates, Nick also made this pertinent comment.
There's a debate in academia about lots of employers always complain that design schools don't produce the kind of students and graduates that they want, and yet employers employ them. And it's there's a bit of tension there.
So how can students be encouraged to develop practical professional skills within their creative studies? One way to develop professional workplace skills is through work-integrated learning schemes. This has been a focus in higher education over the last few years, and the term includes apprenticeships, work placements, or simulated work environments beyond the student's normal university experience. Benefits of work-integrated learning are that a student can begin to have an awareness of the reality of working in an industry and the challenges that may occur. This would then allow students to begin to appreciate the type of problem-solving and communication skills which are essential in defining a realisation of expectations at professional levels of working. A research study found that students who participated in work-integrated learning strategies while still in education had more realistic expectations of finding work after graduation and skills in networking and communication. However, there are financial limitations in what universities can provide, and it can also be time-consuming and difficult for faculty members to investigate and find suitable placement opportunities. As a response to this, there is increasing government support in encouraging graduates into work placements, with organisations such as the UK Commission for Employment and Skills putting forward the agenda of improving entry into creative sectors for graduates. The UK CES is comprised of senior leaders or employers across industry, trade unions, third sector and education institutions in the UK, and their ambition is to give people the best opportunities to encourage competition in a global market. The UK CES is aiming to produce 6,500 work opportunities through paid internships and apprenticeships, and there has already been over 2,450 jobs and apprenticeships made available through the scheme. Also, Creative Scotland offered a funding scheme last year for employers to apply for funding for placements for young people. With schemes such as these in place, there is perhaps less pressure for universities to provide work-integrated learning placements and to focus on other areas which are better to implement within current course structures. For example, Nick Lovegrove discussed what his university had identified as needing improving within the undergraduate course and what measure they put in place to address this.
We were producing lots of graphic design students that were good at print design and branding, but when it came to designing how an app functions, so not actually building the app and the coding, but working out the human interaction with apps, for example, that our students couldn't really do that. So when they designed websites, it was all quite superficial, just making it look pretty rather than functioning really well. So we've gone and introduced more of that now.
Okay.
And on the illustration side, we were finding that lots of our illustration students were really good at drawing, but then they couldn't present their drawings particularly well at the end of it. So we've introduced more digital skills into the second year, where hopefully the students are a lot more comfortable using InDesign and Illustrator to make their work look more professional.
One way to encourage students to adopt these flexible and adaptable career skills is by having an understanding of the protean method. A protean career is one where the individual controls their career rather than the organisation they work for. It's a contemporary style of career management and is ideal for those working in adaptable and evolving industries, as its core values are in development, self-awareness and continuous learning. This seems to be the most suitable perspective for employment in creative sectors, as the emphasis here is being unable to manage the career individually while developing an adaptable portfolio career. In her article, Professional Capabilities for 21st Century Creative Careers, Ruth Bridgestock argues that university students would benefit from leaving education with a strong sense of their own abilities and career goals, an understanding of what drives their chosen sector and how it operates, and the ability to reflect and evaluate and make decisions about building a sustainable career. Making students aware of the protean career model would be of benefit as these qualities are inherent in its nature. It has been argued that training students in entrepreneurial skills increases their chances of developing such skills as these. A research study explored the benefits of entrepreneurial courses and the benefit on students. The results were interesting in that entrepreneurial skills were seen as equally valuable for those seeking employment as much as those seeking to start their own business. The research study identified specific crossover benefits of entrepreneurial skills which encompass aspects such as how to start one's own business, and also more relevant skills for a protean career, including improving students' ability and confidence to take initiative, increasing innovation and creative abilities and useful skills to increase performance in a current professional role. It seems that implementing entrepreneurial practices would increase a student's ability to problem solve and innovate in varying working environments while allowing for the development of personal work opportunities. Now recognised as being embedded in the economy, sustainable methods of finding employment have become a focus for government agencies and educational institutions in how students can develop relevant skills to find their way into the creative industries. Now, as increasing importance is being placed on competing in global markets, creative industries will continue to evolve and expand, and it's been confirmed that graduates must develop problem-solving skills, soft skills such as communication, team working, and also pragmatic business skills without forfeiting creative and innovative conceptual thinking. There are still some barriers in how to identify what provision is most suitable. Research is being done to help classify and measure the creative industry sector to understand the sector's characteristics. By comprehending features of the creative industries, it will become easier to develop within graduates the necessary and appropriate skills to succeed in this growing sector. With trial work in place, learning opportunities at university level have been criticised. It has been argued that it's difficult to project skill needs in a changing environment, so there would always be a level of discrepancy involved. The government are regularly mapping the sector in appreciation of its accelerating growth. A research paper published a few years ago advised that the government should agree a coherent creative industry strategy, cutting across government departments and agencies with higher education at its core. A creative industries forum bringing together all the policymakers, agencies and the main higher education institutions involved in creative industries should be a part of that strategy. So more transparency and more clarity in the creative sector would enable a greater and better tailored approach for graduates entering employment, and the government are committed to this. In terms of what tertiary education can offer, students should be made aware generally of the idiosyncrasies of working in their chosen creative sector and learn how to adapt and cope within an ever-changing professional environment. Although there are still questions about what 21st century skills can be applied within education, a certain level of heuristic learning is unavoidable but also extremely valuable when initiating employment within the creative sector. Certain transferable skills in communication and concepts of entrepreneurship can be imparted during education courses to make this transition more manageable and to provide graduates with a better chance of successfully entering their chosen sector and in starting their own multifaceted portfolio careers. Due to the changing and expanding nature of the creative industries, general skills such as these are most suitable to be learned while still at university to become competent and desirable in professional environments as a complementary approach to the creative and conceptual education already being provided.